in the quiet suburbs of Chicago, where morning mist clings to manicured lawns, a family once lived. Daniel's house was built from memories, the echo of his wife Grace's laughter embedded in every wall. But after Grace's sudden passing, the laughter fell silent, replaced by a creeping, cold shadow. Beneath the veil of grief, greed began to stir, and a father's love slowly curdled into a thirst for revenge. The home that was once a sanctuary of love was now a psychological battlefield where buried secrets were waiting to be unearthed. Because sometimes, the deepest betrayals come from within the family itself. Before we begin, subscribe to the channel and tell us where you're listening from. The Christmas dinner smelled of roasted turkey and betrayal. The old oak table, a silent witness to decades of family dinners, now bore the weight of our latest battle. Untouched plates sat cold, and coffee had long since gone stale in chipped mugs. My son, Ethan, stood at the head of the table, his face flushed with agitation, conducting a symphony of chaos. His wife, Olivia, sat across from me, her disdain as sharp as her manicured nails tapping against the wood. As their words sliced through the air, I gripped my fork, its cold metal a grounding force. Ethan's voice was sharp, insisting he needed money. The house, he claimed, was falling apart while I was hoarding cash. I calmly reminded him that I paid the mortgage on this place before he was even born, but he wouldn't listen. Olivia leaned forward, a thin smile on her lips, speaking of progress and modernization, new floors, new furniture. It was all a flimsy excuse. I knew what this was truly about. Olivia's phone displayed a photo of a leather sectional that cost more than my old truck. They had already spent the budget in their heads. Ethan pressed on, his voice rising, reminding me of my age and questioning the point of my savings. The jab stung, but I kept my eyes on the table. I told him quietly that I had given him enough. He lived there rent-free, a privilege most don't get. Olivia scoffed, calling the house a museum and claiming their presence was a favor to me. The argument escalated until Ethan slammed his spoon down, shouting that I was selfish and holding them back. A heavy silence fell upon the room. Olivia's eyes glinted with a triumphant satisfaction, as if she had been waiting for this very explosion. I could have listed every sacrifice, the overtime shifts, the college tuition, the car I sold for his first junker, but words were useless now. He leaned closer, his breath hot with wine, and delivered the final blow. He told me I wasn't needed there anymore, that they could handle the house without me. The air grew heavy with the weight of his finality. I set my fork down, stood up slowly, and walked toward the hallway, the sound of my chair scraping against the hardwood floor, echoing louder than it should. They thought they had won. I didn't look back as I reached for the door, a single thought burning through the haze of betrayal. I had given him everything, my time, my dreams, my home, no more. As the door clicked shut behind me, I stood in the dark hallway, my pulse steadying. They thought they could break me. They were wrong. I would show them what selfish truly meant. My bedroom was a time capsule, holding ghosts of a life I had built and lost. On the nightstand sat a framed photo of Grace and a Hebe-year-old Ethan, his gap-toothed grin, a world away from the man who had just screamed at me. I pulled out an old photo album and stopped at a picture of Ethan at Hebe, holding a football, his eyes bright with dreams I had helped fund. I remembered selling my Chevy to pay for his college applications, a sacrifice I believed was worth it. Then came his graduation. I'd worked double shifts at construction sites to cover his tuition. He had promised to make me proud. But after Grace's cancer took her, Hebe years ago, Ethan drifted further away. He was left alone until Olivia came along, her sharp ambition sinking its claws into him. She didn't just change him, Perhaps she only revealed who he had always been. I closed the album. The rage I had buried for so long was finally surfacing. That boy, who would apologize after a fight, was gone. The man he had become didn't deserve my patience, and neither did Olivia with her calculated dreams of a life she hadn't earned. I picked up my phone and dialed my old friend Ryan, a retired lawyer who knew how to cut through nonsense. It was time to build something new, their downfall. Ryan's office smelled of whiskey and worn leather. I told him everything. He listened, his eyes narrowing, and when I finished, he called them vultures. They think they can peck you apart because you're old, he said. Are you going to let them? No? I was done letting them. Ryan grinned. Good. Hit them where it hurts. Money, pride, find their weak spot. My mind was already turning. Ethan was impulsive, and Olivia's ego was tied to appearances. I would show them what a lifetime of planning could do. Ryan raised his glass to justice. I raised mine to consequences. Once I started down this path, there would be no going back. They had made their choice. Now, I would make mine. That night, in the darkness of the kitchen, I went through the papers they had carelessly left on the table. A credit card statement revealed a $12,000 debt spread across designer clothes and restaurant tabs. Olivia's name was on a charge for a $2,000 handbag that could have paid the heating bill twice over. Then I found it. A bank notice stamped overdue in red ink. They had missed 2 mortgage payments on a condo they'd bought as an investment, and the bank was threatening to foreclose. I scribbled down the account number. This was more than just about money. It was about control. A few days later, from the shadows of my own home, I overheard their true plan. Ethan was panicking. The joint account I had set up for him years ago was frozen. He couldn't pay his car loan. But it was Olivia's cold calculation that chilled me to the bone. She suggested it was time for me to leave. This house is too big for him anyway, she whispered. We could sell it, move somewhere modern, sell my house, the one I built with Grace, where her laughter still echoed in the walls. They planned to say it was for my own good, to find me a cheap little apartment while they took everything. They called me a burden they needed to be free of. I stood silently in the dark, my phone recording every word. They had just handed me everything I needed. At Ryan's office, we built my fortress. The documents were ironclad. I revised my will, leaving everything to charity. Michael and Emily wouldn't see a dime. I signed the papers to freeze all their shared accounts. Finally, we put the house into a trust, making me the sole trustee and putting it legally out of their reach. The eviction notice was drawn up, giving them 30 days to vacate once served. Everything was collected in a single folder. Their debts, their lies, their recorded plot to oust me. It was my ace, ready to be played. They had planned a grand Christmas dinner to publicly announce my incompetence and push for guardianship. They were setting a trap, but it was about to become their own. The dining room glowed with candlelight, the table set with Grace's china. Relatives and friends filled the chairs, their faces a mix of anticipation and unease. Ethan stood at the head of the table, a wine glass in his hand, his smile polished. Olivia sat beside him, radiating quiet triumph. They thought this was their moment. They were wrong. Ethan cleared his throat and began his practice speech. He spoke of family and moving forward. Then his gaze fell on me. "Dad," he announced, his voice hardening, "we've voted as a family. You're no longer part of it. It's time for you to leave." A gasp rippled through the room. As whispers broke the silence, I slowly and deliberately stood up. "Is that so, Michael?" I asked, my voice steady. He smirked, emboldened. "It's for your own good." I reached under my chair and pulled out the folder. "A parting gift, then," I said, holding it out to him. He hesitated before taking it. He flipped it open, and his breath caught. The first page was the eviction notice, addressed to him and Olivia. His hand trembled as he turned to the next documents. The court order freezing their accounts, followed by a detailed list of their debts and the transcript of their recorded plot to defraud me. "What is this?" he shouted, his voice cracking as papers scattered across the table. "You can't do this." "I already have," I said, my gaze locked on his. "You thought you could take my home, my life, and call it yours." Olivia snatched a paper, her face paling as she read it, her composure crumbling. The guests leaned closer, their shock turning to outrage as they read the proof for themselves. The room erupted into chaos. Ethan stammered, trying to deny it, but the evidence was irrefutable. I stepped back, letting the storm I had created unfold. They had set the stage, but I had rewritten the ending. My new apartment is small, but the wide window offers a view of the Chicago skyline, winking through the falling snow. The old house is gone, sold to a young family who will fill it with new memories. Ethan and Olivia vanished after that Christmas dinner, their belongings cleared out before the eviction deadline. I haven't heard from them since. Some bridges burn clean. I sit at my desk, a photo of Grace on a shelf, and begin to write. The pen feels heavy, not with ink, but with the weight of what I must say. "Ethan," I write, my hand steady. "I've spent years wondering where I went wrong. But you chose your path, and I had to choose mine. I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because I need to move on. This is goodbye." The words are simple, but they carry everything. Forgiveness isn't for them. It's for me a way to shed the last of their weight. I have carried them long enough. The life I once built is gone, but I am not. I am still here, still standing, with years left to shape something new. The snow will keep falling, covering the old paths and making way for new ones. I am ready to walk them. If you like the story, give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. To hear the next story, click the box on the left. Thanks for watching.